Okay, thanks everybody again for joining today for our information session for UC Davis Continuing Professional Education's Geographic Information Systems information session. So I'll start by going through some introductions first. My name is Bruce Cervantes, and I'm the program manager for GIS courses here at UC Davis Continuing and Professional Education, or CPE, as we will refer to it throughout the information session. Also joining us today, not on screen, but she's here in spirit, is Monica Jackson, our program director. Monica oversees UC Davis CPE's Land Use and Natural Resources courses, which our GIS program is housed under. A bit later, we'll speak with our instructor, Dr. Karen Beardsley. Dr. Beardsley is one of our instructors and teaches our upcoming Introduction to GIS and Advanced GIS courses. In addition to her role as instructor with CPE, Karen is also the Director of Professional Programs at UC Davis Global Affairs. Let's go over the agenda. So you know what to expect during our information session today. We will go through a brief introduction to UC Davis CPE. We will review our mission and our history, and then we'll get into some specifics about CPE's GIS programs available both domestically and internationally. And last but never least, we'll hear from Dr. Karen Beardsley before we wrap up with some question and answers. Before we dive into our presentation, a few housekeeping notes. Please feel free to use the question and answer function at the bottom of your screen, or send us a question in the chat box, and we will be answering your questions towards the end of our session today. All of the attendees today will also be getting an email with a follow-up to the recording, so you can come back and revisit it in the time that you have today. So to get a sense of where everyone is at in their learning journey, let's take a quick poll. How many of you have taken a class from UC Davis CPE, formerly known as UC Davis Extension, before? If you've taken any UC Davis Extension courses before, that also counts. And we'll give you a moment to fill out that poll. We'll give it one more moment. Thank you. It looks like most of you are new, so thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it. For those of you that have taken a course before, thank you for joining us again, and we hope to see you in more courses soon. Let me go back to our slides. So a bit of background about UC Davis CPE to get everyone familiarized with who we are and what we offer. We are the lifelong learning arm of UC Davis, and we provide learning opportunities that transform people, organizations, and communities. We have been providing continuing education programs for more than 50 years with more than 62,000 annual enrollments. We serve students locally and nationwide with enrollments from all 50 states and over 100 countries. As we mentioned earlier, we also have international GIS program on Coursera, which we'll go into in just a moment. So now that you know a bit more about us, we'd like to know a bit more about you as well via a new poll. What brought you to today's information session? Are you looking to gain some new skills? Are you looking for a career change? Do you want to expand on existing knowledge? Has a friend been talking off your ear about our program? Or is there something else that brought you to today's information session? So we'll give you guys a moment to fill that out. So it looks like a majority of you are looking for some professional development experience, which is perfect because that's what we do. And we have a lot of courses for you. Some of you are looking for a career change, which is exciting, and a few of you really just want to expand on your knowledge and love learning, which is great too. We have a variety of programs here that we can help you out with. Let me close out of that. So before we jump into our programs, as a refresher, let's dive into what are Geographic Information Systems, GIS. GIS is a powerful data tool that is used in many different fields and industries. Those who use GIS typically use it to visualize, analyze, and understand relationship patterns and trends. As we mentioned, GIS is a tool, and because of this, its uses are vast. A couple of examples are the Coronavirus Resource Center at Johns Hopkins University, which uses this to track the confirmed cases of COVID-19 by country and by United States county. Another example is track historical redlining data that can be used to help the public to understand how historical inequalities still contribute to today. CP has GIS professional concentration and a GIS specialization. Both of those options are taught by industry professionals as well as academic staff. Some of the courses covered in our GIS professional concentration address a variety of topics, from using GIS for cannabis regulation to Python programming for GIS. Our courses are accessible for both domestic United States students and those internationally as well. Our courses have two audiences: those that are new to GIS and those that may have some experience and that are just looking to further their skill sets. So to break some of this down, some of you may be unfamiliar with the term professional concentration. Our GIS professional concentration is a focused study that can be completed in a year or less. Overall, they range from 60 to 139 hours of instruction. For some perspective on how long a course may range, our courses typically range from about 2 weeks of instruction, which varies by course, obviously. Our professional concentration requires no application fee. Therefore, you are more than welcome to try out a course or two and see if it works for you before continuing to the full suite of courses. Professional concentrations are short because we know that you're busy and we want to make sure that you can learn this content and then get back to work and apply it as soon as possible. The GIS professional concentration consists of 4 required courses, which are listed on the screen, and also has 3 required elective courses. We recommend anyone that has very limited GIS background, or they may be completely new to GIS, to start off with our Introduction to GIS course, which will be taught in person by Dr. Karen Beardsley next month from October 12th through the 14th. This course will be a great way to get you used to the fundamentals of GIS and how it can be applied, and as a primer to Esri ArcGIS Pro software. You can use the skills you learned in this course for our upcoming Advanced GIS Productivity, Geoprocessing, and Analysis course, which will be offered in person also from November 16th through November 18th. This course will expand on the skills that you've gained. Some additional courses that we also have coming up are ArcGIS Story Maps, Digital Storytelling, which is also in person. We have GIS Database Design in February, which is also in person, and using GIS for emergency services, which is online. And if you have any questions about those courses, you can let us know in the chat and we can respond to you. So we have another poll for you. Would you be interested in receiving a digital badge? A digital badge, for those of you that may not be familiar, is a graphic verification of skills that you have mastered after successfully completing a specific course or program. Digital badges are a great way to share your educational achievements and new competencies with employers, colleagues, friends, and family via social media platforms such as LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. And we'll give you a moment to think about it. Okay, it looks like a majority of you have answered that you would like yes. There are some of you that still need to think about it, and that's perfectly fine. And then some of you that are unsure and that want to take some time again. But thanks for sharing that information with us. We appreciate it. Moving on. So we also have, as I mentioned before, we also have an option for our international students. Our GIS specialization consists of an asynchronous series of courses on Coursera, which is an online learning platform. We recommend this option if you or someone you know are internationally based. There are 5 required courses, which includes a geospatial analysis project, which serves as a capstone to build on concepts learned in the series of courses. Each course is about 4 weeks long as well. By now, you may be thinking, this sounds awesome, but can I get a discount? We do offer discounts on most of our courses, and you can learn more about these on our website. But we highlighted a few here. Members of the Cal Aggie Alumni Association enjoy $50 off of our courses. Note that this is a reciprocal benefit and extends to members of all UC alumni associations. Our professional partners receive a 10% discount, as well as groups of 3 or more enrolling in the same class at the same time with the same payment method. If you have a colleague that you are both interested looking in the same courses, make sure you coordinate together to get that enrollment discount. As a reminder, the full list of discounts is available on our website as well. To thank you for attending today, we will be emailing out a $100 coupon that is good for one-time use by new students only and good for any course. This coupon does expire, so be sure to use it before August 30th of 2023. We also have some student aid options available to those of you and people standing by to help with these kind of questions. You can reach them via email at cpeinfo@ucdavis.edu or by phone number listed here. For specific questions about the Workforce Investment and Opportunities Act, WIOA, or AmeriCorps Educational Award, you can specify that you would like to be contacted by Suzette Odom. If you have any questions regarding veterans benefits or student and personal loans, you can also specify those in your email to Suzette Odom, which is listed on the screen above. If you have any other questions about financing your education, you can have a list of those options on the URL listed on the screen. Moving on to our guest speaker, Dr. Karen Beardsley. As mentioned before, Dr. Beardsley is one of our GIS instructors that teaches Introduction to GIS as well as Advanced GIS. Karen has taught with GIS for UC Davis CPE since 1996, when she helped develop our first GIS course offering. Karen received her PhD in geography from UC Davis and has worked at UC Davis since 1994 as a researcher and GIS specialist. She currently serves as the Director of Global Professional Programs at Global Affairs Office at UC Davis. Her interests include applications of GIS and other geospatial technologies to biodiversity protection and land use planning, as well as developing international connections and opportunities for UC Davis students, scholars, and faculty around the world. Thanks for joining us today, Karen.
Great, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining. So just a couple of questions for you. So please tell us about your experience relating to GIS.
Yeah, it kind of goes way back. First of all, it's great to be here, and thanks for all of you that are attending. It's always nice to get kind of a little bit of a peek into what you might be learning in some of these classes. So I started using GIS in 1989, a long time ago. GIS was very different back then. My first job was estimating elephant populations for the continent of Africa, working at the United Nations Environment Program in Kenya. I was just finishing up with the Peace Corps as a Peace Corps volunteer there, and sort of fell into that kind of position. I didn't really know what GIS was. I learned very quickly. I kind of fell in love with it. I like to say GIS found me, but then I definitely was a willing partner in that relationship, and so I went on to get my master's in GIS at UC Santa Barbara, and then ultimately came back to Davis, where I just kind of keep coming back. So my undergraduate degree was in Davis in applied math and computer science. So I came back to Davis, then I worked for probably 20 to 25 years at the Information Center for the Environment, which was a lab doing a lot of GIS applications for federal, state, nonprofit organizations, you know, on the research, mostly on the research side, but also some training. That's when I actually started teaching for CPE in the 90s. So then I got more involved in international work, which I really found very exciting. I ended up, after getting my PhD, I got my PhD in the geography group at Davis, kind of while working as well at the same time in 2009. In 2015, I was accepted, I got a grant, a Fulbright scholarship to go and teach, set up a program, the software and the curriculum and everything in I was away for a year, and I taught in Bhutan, which is actually the picture behind me was from the plane as I was flying into Bhutan. So a place I've gone back now, as I lived there for a year with my family, I go back and teach. I've taught the UC Davis, it's called LDA 150. It's the Intro to GIS class for UC Davis, upper division class. I've taught that twice as a study abroad program. I've also taught GIS, the same class online during the pandemic from 2020 to 2021. And so again, now I'm actually using my GIS skills and for my work in global affairs to pull together international data and connections and interactive kind of resources for faculty, students, and others to kind of see what UC Davis's global reach and engagement is. So yeah, that's the basics.
Thanks for sharing your background. That's a lot of stuff that you've covered. So can you tell me how long you've been teaching with CPE?
Yeah, I always go back. It was either 1995 or 1996. I can't really remember which, but I have been teaching on and off for CPE for that time. I will mention that when I was first asked to teach and develop this class, because nobody even hardly knew what GIS was back then. One of the things that they asked me was, okay, so you'll just come and lecture about it, right? For 2 days. I said, no, I said, I'm only going to do this if it's at least half hands-on. Because my philosophy is that if the way you learn GIS is by doing GIS, and I really believe that the hands-on piece is what really helps, really lets you learn it rather than just sort of memorize stuff or see it and then you forget what you learned.
Yeah, agreed, especially when there's so many different parts and puzzles to GIS, especially
Yeah.
the interface. It's that really important to have that hands-on experience.
Yep.
So how does your professional experience inform your teaching?
I mean, I guess that kind of follows along from the last question and what we were just talking about. I mean, I think that professionals, immersing yourself in your own work and whatever that may be, and using your own examples is, of course, the best way to learn GIS. I think that the idea all along, as I'm teaching and through my various types of experiences, is to create it such that people are learning using certain data and certain processes, but always thinking about how that applies back to you and your own work. So I think the other thing that has really influenced me a lot recently in my teaching is that there are so many resources actually already there. I don't have to reinvent the wheel to help teach. Obviously, there's some things that aren't so good. There are some resources that aren't so good, but I think really helping point students in the direction of how they can continue that learning process even after taking the class, because there are so many ways. I still use a lot of these resources. Like if I need to learn something new about, there's always new things cropping up in the GIS world. And I'm specifically talking about the Esri aspect. I don't use AutoCAD, I don't use QGIS. I really stick with Esri because it works and it's supported and it can do pretty much anything you want. And if I am trying to learn something new, I go and take a little, 1 hour, self-help class. And because I've had so many years of instruction and knowledge, I can pretty much find my answers by doing little learning snippets and then pulling that together into what I need to do for my work. So I think that's one piece of learning, is learning how to know where to go for those little times when you need something. You don't have an instructor there to answer your question, but you know where the resources are.
Yeah, GIS definitely lends itself very well to people that are just curious learners very much.
Yeah, yeah.
So what emerging trends or applications do you see coming up in GIS? I mentioned earlier today an example of the Johns Hopkins University
Mhm.
using the coronavirus dashboard, but can you think of any other things that you see on your end?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a perfect example of an ArcGIS Online application that is become so mainstream. I mean, who has not gone to the Johns Hopkins coronavirus dashboard? I was probably on there, 5 times a day during the beginning of the pandemic. That site literally, I think it got trillions of hits. I mean, it's the most the most ever access application that certainly GIS based that's ever been developed. And I think what that points to is that there's a place for ArcGIS Pro, which is sort of really important for that foundational learning and understanding of GIS concepts, how to do analysis, how to use it for the power that you get from GIS. I think what's happening and sort of the trend is that a lot more cloud-based computing is happening. Also, a lot more data are available to people through their subscriptions or whatever, but it doesn't cost a whole lot, and you can use data resources that are online. You don't have to have them, put on your desktop to only be used by you. And that also leads to greater collaboration. So with a lot of these online tools, you can share information, you can share applications, you can build, the thing that I really like to do is you can create a survey that then taps directly into a web map, which then you can bring into a dashboard, much like the Johns Hopkins ones. And then as your data are populated, that dashboard is populated. And then the final thing about that is really the ability to communicate through GIS. So one of the things, so story maps have just exploded, and I think they're great for just telling a story, getting people engaged, sharing information. They're also really good for taking the results of what might be a very complicated analytical process and then sharing it in a way that people can understand it and they can interact with your data and with your results and with your potential solutions. So when I teach for the UC Davis class, the students all do pretty intense analytical projects. And then what they have to do is they have to present that information all in a story map. So they don't do it in PowerPoint. They put it in a story map such that it's like a living narrative of their work. And at the end, they can then put a sort of a call to action. So based on this project, here's ways you can go to get more involved. Here's how you can take action. Here's how you can sign a petition. Here's how you can donate to the cause, whatever it may be. You're putting all that in one space. And so I really am a proponent of that for communicating GIS results and information and sort of the potential solutions. Lots of climate change issues going on these days. If you share the data and the information and then tell people what they can do, that's very powerful.
Thanks for sharing. And I agree 100% with all of that. Story maps especially is a great way to get people invested in GIS that may not be able to connect with it just looking at a map. But if you present it in a way that shows, and that call to action definitely is really important. So one last question for you, Karen, before you have to head out. Karen has a previous engagement, just why we're trying to get her to wrap up soon. Is that in your experience in teaching for us, and in teaching on the UC Davis campus, in all those experiences, what kind of engaging ones have you had with students in the classroom and also online?
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know. I mean, I guess there's probably lots of different examples. I think one of the great things that I've experienced through CPE teaching is that a lot of people come from state and, in their careers where they are looking for GIS as a tool to help them do what they're already doing, but do it a little bit better. Or also to really connect with those in their organization that are using GIS, but they've never really understood it. And I think that the best interaction, and I feel pretty strongly about this. I really think that GIS is best taught in person because you can have those discussions with not only the instructor but with each other. I've seen a lot of people engage with others in the classroom and really kind of forge partnerships even after the class and share information and resources and tools and solutions and all those kinds of things. so, you know, and CPE brings a different audience, obviously, than teaching UC Davis students, because it's people that are farther along in their careers typically, and so they're really looking at it to how, you know, how can this best help me? Um, I think that one of the things that people the hardest sort of jumping off point is when you learn how to do everything in an exercise and you hear lectures and you're doing things and then it's like, okay, now answer this question and here's the parameters and answer this question and I'm not going to tell you how to answer it. And I think that's where the, you know, the real the learning happens, when it's like, okay, I have to remember how to do this, or I have to figure out how to solve my problem using the tools that I've learned in this class. So I think after, you know, one class, you sort of almost, you know, you get there, you're on the edge, and then I think really delving in deeper is really important because it keeps that learning going. GIS is not something you totally learn in a day or two. You know, it takes a bit more than that, and I think that you know, the process of having intensive several day courses is really effective, as opposed to maybe spread out. I mean, even a 10-week course in school is kind of, you know, a little bit harder. So that's one advantage, but you got to, you know, you kind of got to keep with it. So anyway, you know, I always tell my students, everybody embrace your mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. It's fine. That's how you really learn. So yeah, I find people, I love the aha moments when people just, you know, you see the sort of light bulb going off above their head as they're sort of understanding something and then again being able to apply it to their own kinds of work.
Yeah, and I think the favorite part for me is seeing how students use GIS in
Yeah.
ways that are like different because everybody works in different industries and everybody comes
Mhm.
with a different perspective on it. So it's really interesting to me to see what solutions GIS can provide
Exactly.
for
Yeah.
various problems. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I
thanks for
noticed there
joining.
was some messages though, some
Yeah.
questions in the chat that maybe like, is a story map a GIS software tool is the one that I see.
Hmm.
And I just wanted to mention that so a story map is actually an ArcGIS online application. So it is something that is online. It doesn't sit on your computer, so you can use, you know, ArcGIS Pro is limited to PCs, not Macs, for example. But a story map and a dashboard like the Johns Hopkins ones, and a Survey 123, which is like Survey Monkey, but it's got a spatial aspect to it. Those are all what we call web apps. And so it is part of Esri software, but it's not something you load on your computer. It's something you have access through an online organizational account, which UC Davis has and which you get to join when you take this course. Any of these courses, you get a temporary login that lets you access all that. And many of your organizations have this too. So that's the
Yep.
beauty of it, right? If you work for the state or you work for some of the larger NGOs and so on, and federal agencies, they have ArcGIS Online available. And they probably, a lot of them have ArcGIS Pro as well.
Awesome.
Um,
Thanks, Karen, for
oh yeah, I
joining us.
do have
I
to
don't,
go.
I know you have to leave. That's why
I'm
I was
on
like,
an
wait a
interview
second.
panel. I would stay, but I'm actually part of an interview panel, so I have to be there for this.
No problem. Thanks for joining
Okay.
us today, Karen. Talk to you soon.
Okay, and if people need more questions answered, just send me an email.
Yeah, will do.
Okay,
Bye.
thank you. Bye.
Okay, moving on with our next poll. So we've covered a lot today and we're curious to hear about what your next steps are. Do you need a bit more time to think about it? Are you ready to sign up for courses? Are you unsure and again need some time to think it all over? Again, we've covered a lot today, so it's perfectly fine. So we'll give you a moment to fill that out. Okay, it looks like a majority of you have answered. And it looks like a majority of you are ready to enroll, and that's fantastic. Our fall and winter quarter courses are open for registration now, so go ahead and get started. For those of you that still need some time to think about it, we totally understand. Please let us know if you have any questions. And if you're looking forward to getting in touch with us, we'll have that option on the next page. So we'll answer that in a moment. So some time to answer question and answers. So let me pull up the chat 1 second. I'm working on just one screen, so let me pull up that information. Question and answers. How realistic is it to expect job prospects in the GIS field without coding experience? I think it's pretty realistic. Not a lot of people tend to have a wide breadth of coding experience. I think it does help you. We do have a GIS Python programming course because that is important. Coding experience is helpful in terms of automating lots of features. When you're working in GIS, automation is very handy. So it's definitely helpful, but it's not a required skill set, especially in the beginning for sure. And can we highlight the key differences between in-person curriculum versus the Coursera option? That's a really great question. Thanks for asking, anonymous attendee. Our differences between in-person curriculum versus Coursera. Our in-person curriculum is synchronous, meaning there's an instructor, for example, Dr. Karen Beardsley, is there to work with you in your courses in real time. The difference with Coursera is that these are pre-recorded lecture videos, pre-recorded lecture content, and lab demonstrations that are hosted for a longer period of time. They go over a couple of weeks. And there's minimal instructor coordination, instructor time. There's less networking opportunities also because there's a larger field of people as well. So those are some of the main differences between the two. If you want more of a hands-on experience, I would definitely recommend the in-person curriculum or online course options versus the Coursera option. The Coursera option is really good if you have very limited time and you want a longer period of time to explore with GIS. You can do it over months and months and months. So that's the main difference between the two. And great question again. Let me pull up another question. Do the in-person courses offer an online option such as a hybrid? At this point, we don't. Um, However, we are looking into that in the future, but as of right now, we don't. Um, for the person that is living, this person has a question about our online courses. Our courses for fall are all in person. We are based in our classroom facility is based in Davis. So for all of our fall courses, they are in person. However, in winter quarter, which begins in January for us, we have some courses that are online as well. Um, course is the right choice. So this person is asking, they're looking to start fresh in GIS. I would definitely recommend our Introduction to GIS course. That is the best option. It's a really good way to get you familiar with the software interface. Like we're mentioning, there's a lot of different things that can be really overwhelming if you're trying to learn it on your own, in my opinion. However, I think it's really helpful to have somebody over your shoulder, like an instructor, to go over and answer those questions in real time that you may have, and also rely on your colleagues that are also in your peers that are in the course rather, to help you along with some of those questions. Then let me see if there's any other questions in the chat. 1 second. As we mentioned before, our in-person courses are obviously synchronous, meaning there's real-time instruction, so they're set. For our online courses, some of them there's pre-recorded content. such as lecture recordings and some lab recordings. However, there is what we call live sessions, and our live sessions are required for participation. So those would be for about 2 hours each day. So those would be the required um, places to attend. That's a great question. I'm trying to see if there's any other questions in the chat. I don't really. Oh, how can we sign up for courses? We put the link in the chat, so if you want to get from there, you can. Do any of your courses provide specific industry case studies, for example, housing, health, etc.? Yes, we are working on some of those as we speak, actually. We're working with, we have, for example, our emergency management course, our GIS for emergency management. We'll go over a couple of different fire safety, fire risk options. So how GIS can be applied for those that are working with, especially wildfires right now. So that's an example of one. In our GIS specialization on Coursera, which we're currently working on revising, our instructor is pulling a couple of different examples of how GIS can be used. He works for the Office of Emergency Services, so he has a plethora of experiences he can use to apply GIS. We're using a business case analysis, transportation, a couple of different options. Those of you that may not be aware, GIS can be used in a variety of industries, so we'll be having more experiences of those. So good question. Trying to see if there's any general questions. One second. Let's see. And it looks like I think that's great. So we have a question on one of the required courses. Um, sorry, Kelsey, I'm trying to pull it up and it keeps kicking me back to the beginning of my chat history. Do we know when data acquisition and evaluation GPS will be available again? It'll likely be either our summer quarter or next fall. So just keep a heads up. If you click the notify me button on our website, you'll be notified as soon as we program it and schedule it. So good question. All right. Let's see. Does this certification have a lot to offer someone who has an undergraduate degree in GIS? We do have some advanced specialized courses that are coming up. We have some advanced GIS courses. Our spatial analysis and data handling course will be offered in winter quarter. That one touches on more advanced topics in GIS. We also have an introduction to remote sensing course, which will also be offered. That one will be likely in spring. So keep an eye out for those. Any course videos available? Um, a question on, do we have any course videos available to get an idea of how the courses are taught? We don't currently have any available to share, but there are some courses, like I mentioned before, that are our courses that are online. We have lecture recordings and lab recordings that our instructors have recorded, and then they conduct the live sessions. They'll go over a lab demonstration that they've already offered and answer any questions in real time. So that's how the structure of our online courses. In the in-person class, it's a little bit different. Dr. Beardsley will be at the podium and sharing her screen and sharing all the different options, and then give time for students to do labs in real time. And we'll work with you throughout. She'll check in on students periodically and go around the computer lab to answer any questions. All right, I think that's all the questions. Let me double check the question and answers. 1 second. What computer would a student need at home to work on content? That's a great question. As Dr. Beardsley mentioned earlier, Esri ArcGIS software operates on a PC strictly. That's ArcGIS Pro. However, there is an online option that can be used on a Mac computer as well. There's also different options for GIS. So Esri ArcGIS Pro is the juggernaut, essentially. It is the industry standard for the most part. However, there are other options. So if you're looking for an open source tool, there's open source GIS also is an option and that can work on a Mac or a PC. So for our courses, for those of you that have a Mac like myself, we have virtual desktop computers that our students are able to utilize for our online courses. And so you would access a pool of computers that already have ArcGIS Pro installed on there. So you wouldn't have to install the software yourself. So no, you wouldn't need to purchase the software for our courses. Good question. Let me pull up the question and answer again. Are the same courses offered on Coursera as UC? No, these are slightly different. For example, the fundamentals of GIS course, that would be the equivalent of our introduction to GIS course. However, there are some of the other ones are combined with a couple of different classes. So no, they don't directly translate. Let me check again. For a student that's taken, oh, hi Bob. For if you've taken intro to GIS, I think that's fine to go to the advanced course in the next step. That's the pathway I would tell most students to do. If you've taken the introduction to GIS course and are looking to continue to expand your experience, that would be advanced GIS. Done. Done. How much are courses geared towards data management versus engineering, construction, operation systems management? There is obviously a large data component within GIS. Data is the basis for GIS. And so there is quite a lot of data management for sure. Hi again, Bob. I think that's most of our questions. Career paths for GIS. There's because GIS can be applied to any industry, it's really open. It really is. So for an example, we were looking at some case studies of GIS being used for realtors. You know, if you're looking at the different housing markets, that's something you would consider. For example, the California Office of Emergency Services, they created uh, a map that has cooling centers, especially when we had our heat wave in Sacramento the past couple of weeks, I want to say. It was really important to share that information with the public. So GIS can be applied in a variety of different industries. So that's many different career paths also. And I think that's a majority of questions. So thanks everybody for joining us today. We will, if you want to reach us and get in contact with us for more information questions, you can schedule a 15-minute appointment with us with our enrollment coach, Kathy Zhao. Her information is on the screen right there. And thanks everybody for attending today. We really appreciate it. Thanks everybody. Have a good day.